To start, we'll begin to measure our sourdough starter, and this recipe calls for roughly an 80% hydration rate. So we'll add 340 grams of water to a large bowl. Then we'll add around 110 grams of our starter. Next, toss in 425 grams of all-purpose flour. And finally, 11 grams of salt. Place this bowl under a damp towel so it doesn't move around while we mix with a wooden spoon. And we want to mix this until the flour has absorbed all the water. Once I'm done, I like to use a bench scraper to remove any excess dough from my wooden spoon. We'll cover with a tea towel for 10 minutes so that the dough can relax and the gluten strands can form. Once our dough has rested, we'll test for extensibility. And here, as you can see, the dough is stretchy and can extend quite a bit without tearing. However, don't be concerned if your dough tears. This is due to the bran in our starter, which contains sharp edges and can tear the dough prematurely. Our dough is still very extensible, as you can almost see the skin of my fingertips. We'll remove our dough, and this is when we start to develop the gluten network with the slap and fold technique. I'll wet my hands so that they don't stick. I'll gather my dough, then lift up and slap onto my bench, then fold. As you can see, I lift from the sides, slap down onto my bench, and then fold. Again, I'll place my fingers underneath the dough on its sides, lift up, slap down, and fold. I'll continue to do this until the dough becomes somewhat sticky. Once the dough starts to stick to my hands, we'll cover with a bowl and rest for approximately 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, we'll perform the slap and fold once again. And this process is forming the gluten network, which will house the many air pockets within our bread. As you may begin to notice, the surface of our dough is becoming much smoother. I'll cover once again for another 15 minutes and repeat the slap and fold. We'll then shape our dough into a boule. So as you can see, using both hands at the sides of my dough, I'm using my right hand to cup and drag my dough inwards, while my left hand guides and receives the dough. This will tighten the boule and help it rise uniformly. I'll then place into a bowl for the next phase, the bulk fermentation, which will take roughly 4 to 6 hours at room temperature. Once our bulk fermentation is done, our dough should have doubled in size, and when I press on it, there's a ton of gas inside. You can also see some of the gluten strands when you pull the sides of the bowl, which means that the dough is ready. I'll then dust my workbench in preparation for shaping. And first I'll perform a pre-shape. I'll release my dough from the bowl and then fold in the corners of my dough towards the center like so, pinching down as I go. I'll flip this around and form into a boule. Once the boule is formed, we'll dust and let this rest for 10 minutes. Now comes the final shape. I'll flip my dough and gently flatten with my fingers. I'll then fold one side to the middle and then the other over top. I'll seal in the seams. And next you can roll this toward yourself or away. I'm going to choose the latter. We'll then roll and tuck, and you want this to be as tight as possible. We'll tuck in the sides and close any seams that may be left open. I'll then shape the dough by cupping with my palms until we achieve an oval-shaped batard. Next, spray your banneton with water and sprinkle some rice flour on the bottom and sides. This will help your dough from sticking. We'll place our dough inside the banneton, seam side up. And here I'm simply pinching the seams, making sure they're all closed. Now as I jiggle, you can see that the bread is nice and loose, which indicates that it's fermented and full of CO2. We'll then cover with flour to keep the surface from drying out. Place your sourdough inside of a bag or cover with a towel if you wish, and place in the fridge for 12 to 24 hours. Now the next day, we'll prepare some parchment paper for our dough. An easy way to create any size parchment paper you'd like is to fold and slice off any excess like so. and this is what our sourdough will bake on. We'll preheat our oven to 450 degrees with our Dutch oven inside. Now you want to always place a sheet tray below your Dutch oven to prevent the bottom of your sourdough from burning. And here's our Dutch oven where we'll be dropping in our dough. Now here's our sourdough after 12 hours. As you can see, it's risen quite a bit and has a ton of air inside. We'll flip onto our parchment paper and with an X-Acto knife, I'm going to score the sides like so. Scoring will allow the bread to open while it expands in the oven, and this will help with what is called an oven spring, which is when the dough bursts at the seams from all the air and steam that's trapped inside. By scoring the dough, we allow it to expand without inhibition. We'll place our dough into our hot Dutch oven and spray with water so that we can create more steam inside. The more steam, the better the oven spring. We'll then bake that for 20 minutes. We'll remove the lid, and there's our sourdough, which has achieved a decent oven spring. We'll let the crust caramelize with the lid off for another 20 to 25 minutes. Now here's our sourdough with a beautiful dark amber crust. We'll place this onto a wire rack to cool for 2 to 4 hours. And here you can see our lovely fermentation bubbles on the surface of our crust. And an ear that's not so bad for a brand new starter. Once rested, we'll slice our sourdough, and you always want to use a serrated knife. With your thumb on the spine, this will allow you to put more pressure on your knife and cut with force. We'll slice in half. And there's our crumb, some large holes, some medium ones, and some that are small. And this is great because it's considered an even crumb. I'll cut myself a slice. And the whole wheat starter is really a game changer and provides your dough with a nuttiness that can't be duplicated with all white bread. The way I like to eat this is to spread a nice amount of butter over top. I then like to sprinkle it with some salt. And this is really tasty. It's sour, salty, and fatty, and has a beautiful texture from the chewy bread and crunchy, nutty crust. Now remember, your starter is perhaps the most important element to a great sourdough. The one used within this lesson was quite a new starter, but here's some of the crumbs, crusts, and ears you can expect to achieve with one that's mature. These are just a few examples of sourdoughs I've made with a starter that I was feeding for a few months. Lastly, always refer to the bread cycle as you begin to bake more. The bread cycle's logical steps will come in handy and eventually become unconsciously followed when baking bread. We had a wild ride, full of ancient wisdom, modern techniques, and great future memories that you can now make with family and friends. So, that does it for this module of the course. In the next, we'll be delving into pickling and preservation techniques, which is even more ancient than bread. I'll see you there.